Welcome to the channel. Thank you to everybody for tuning in. So in today's video, we're going to be looking at two more watches. The one on the left is a Cadisen C8244 and the one on the right is a new watch to me and a new watch on the channel is the Borman 3968. Both were unboxed a couple of weeks ago, so now it's time for me to give you guys the full review on both these watches. Reason I'm doing it is because the AliExpress sales are upon us, so I want to get as many reviews out for you guys. Because this is the best time to get bargains, and not necessarily buy the actual watch stores but the coupons. It's all about the coupons. I've spent about £450 myself all on watch parts, and I had like a £60 coupon, so you know it's worthwhile in the long run, especially if you buy from AliExpress. Anyway, so let's get started. We're going to start on the Cadisen. Yeah, instantly when I saw this Cadisen, it stood out. I reached out to Cadisen because I do get a lot of watches from these guys, and yeah, they sent one out for me to look at. It's a really nice looking watch. That's the first thing that definitely stood out. A lot of you guys do the same thing. It depends on looks. Specs usually come after. So specs and dimensions on screen. Notable things here, we've got a couple of downgrades. As we know, the movements have gone expensive, particularly the Seiko NH35s, or only the Seiko NH35s. So we've got a Miyota 8215, and we've also got a domed, or like a curved edge mineral crystal. So not sapphire. Now the price for this is, well, the choice deal, you can get the watch for under £70. Usual price is around the £90 mark. So with this Cadisen, you have a dial choice of 3 different colors. You've got a black, a brown, and then what you see here, blue with the gold accent. Now I believe this is the best colorway. I think for me anyway, it's the most interesting, and it really shows off the beauty of the dial, and I think it works really well with the case too. Now the other watch we're looking at today, the Borman, that also has the Miyota 8215. And I want to bring up an interesting point here. Now, I think potentially there is some speculation around the 8215 having been improved to slightly remove the obvious stutter. Now, I did a quick check, and there is something about this on the internet. Nothing solid, nothing, with solid proof that Miyota have addressed the issue directly. But what I am finding is with both these watches, I find it quite difficult to get the stutter to happen. And I recall, years ago when the Miyota 8215s were about, on some of the earlier watches, you would only need to hold the watch at a certain angle, like for example down at 3 o'clock, and the seconds and the stutter was so bad on some watches that it would literally drop down to 30 seconds in about 5 seconds. Now, I've been messing around with this, so I've been shaking it side to side, knocking it, etc. And you'll see here, and I can show you on camera, that the stutter is barely there. So just that you might see, very, I don't know, mild stuttering, but nothing how it was. So that is a good thing. That's a plus there, definitely. And again, I'm not saying it's 100%, so I need you guys to pitch in, give us some anecdotal stuff. If you've got the 8215s that are quite recent, are you guys seeing the same stutter? Because we know the 8215 has also been improved without, Miyota saying anything to anybody. Before, these watches did not have a hacking mechanism, and if you unscrew the crown, now you'll find that does hack, which means this is more or less the same as NH35. Especially when you look at accuracy and reliability, there is no difference between these Miyotas and the NH35s. They just run as well. As I said, that stuttering was the only thing, but honestly, from both watches that have the same movement, the stutter is barely there. So now that we've addressed that, let's have a look at this beautiful dial. Middle section, as you can see, it's that textured design. I'm not a huge fan of that texture because it looks like a road surface, a bit like asphalt, but it's broken up by that gold or that gilt ring between that and the outer bezel, should we say, or the outer internal bezel. And that's the effect the watch gives off. It gives it a compressor style, but with only a single crown. And the outer minute track, or the outer timing ring, if you will, it's actually convex, but that curved glass just around the edges gives it a bulbous appearance, or like a curved appearance, which honestly, that's what I think completes the look. That's what makes the watch look a little different. Now, the hour markers do have the gilt polished frames. Everything is in solid white. And then you've got your printed text. You also get a framed date window, which includes bevels. So it's a very nice and neat looking dial. Handset, a slightly different shape. Now, I'm not fully aware of all the watches that exist, obviously. I mean, you can show me a Seiko homage, I'll know it from a mile off. So I don't know if Cadisen have homaged a particular design. If they have, please drop in the comments. But yeah, the execution of said watch seems to be pretty well done. Now, one final thing we need to check on this dial before we move on is see how good the lume is. So the lume isn't that great, if I'm honest. Now, not that you can tell with the video footage you're seeing. The camera I'm using, as I've said before, it does a really good job of picking up, very, very low light. But to the naked eye, the only thing you will be able to see that is visible is the actual hour markers or the indices, those batons which are in C3. That is the brightest part, and even that isn't super bright. And where the camera picks up that outer sort of inner bezel, if you will, you can't see that to the naked eye. It's extremely dull. So the lume is something that they have also skimped on, and as I said, the only thing that stands out is the C3 batons. So that's the first shortcoming that I've seen on the watch, is the lume. Looking at the case, yeah, very nice case shape. After you get past the dial, just taking a look at the case, again, very interesting. It's quite different from what's out there. You've got quite a thin, fully brushed bezel. So it's a balance between like a tool watch and a sporty watch. And then you've got full brushing along the whole side of the case. Now the lugs do have that linear brushing, very soft. I would say it's almost satin, but the side of the watch, that's definitely a lot smoother. Horizontal brushing, very fine, and really crisp definition on the whole shape of the case, those shapely lugs. The fit and finish of the end links, pretty good again for a cheap watch. And Cadisen, definitely with this model, show massive amounts of improvement. Looking at the bracelet, fully brushed along the sides, split pin links, which does mean you have a bit of flexibility. You've got a beaded bracelet with the center beads which are polished. They're not all individual beads, and I don't think they need to be as well. The articulation is pretty good because you've got these links which are kind of small anyway. The brushing on the bracelet is very consistent, very fine brushing as well. So the level of quality that we're seeing, I'm seeing finer brushing if I compare to some of the older models. Really good fit and finish. And yeah, I'm quite impressed with this Cadisen, such a low price point. And even if you get the choice price, I don't know if it's still there, 60, 70 pound, it's probably going to be one of the best 60 or 70 pound watches made. The sizing of it is bang on as well. It's not as small as we've been seeing, like the 36 or 38. This comes in at smack 40 millimeters, gives you a really good presence on wrist. 12.5 mil thick with a 47 millimeter lug to lug, which is still pretty compact and very proportionate to the 40 millimeter diameter. Minimal taper of the 18 millimeters on the bracelet, which still does a good job for the watch, making sure it's balanced. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, and let's move on to the Borman 3968. So I'm going to be careful with this watch. There is a lot of polishing, and I'm going to try my best to not touch the watch. I hate wearing gloves. They make everything a bit of a hindrance. So this is the Borman. As I said in the unboxing, it's a new brand to the channel, of course, to me. And there is one specific thing which stood out. That was the dial color. It's like a very pale sage green. I'm not too sure how that comes across on camera. But yeah, you can take a look at the pictures on the website, which are probably a better accurate representation of the actual shade. But it's a really nice green. They also offer this in a grey dial, and price for this is £104, around the £100 mark. The prices do fluctuate quite a bit, and you get a bracelet version, and then you get a leather strap. Personally, I'll go for the bracelet version and just get an additional leather strap if you want one. Key things here: push-pull crown, 50 meters of water resistance, and then this also runs a Miyota 8215. Also has a sapphire crystal. So let's start off with the dial, the main thing, which is why I bought the watch. Dial construction, you've got 3 different types of finishing or detailing, if you will. The center disc, where you've got your text, is matte, fully matte, no reflection off there. Then around that, where you've got your applied Arabics with the polished frames, you've got those concentric rings. Nicely engraved, potentially guilloche. And then the last layer, or the last part of that dial, right on the outer side, is a bit of sunray. So under the right light, you can see how there's such light play, or very different types of light play on the same dial, where you've got your matte in the center, and then the light just comes off those concentric rings and then on to that bit of sunray. So quite a lot of detail on that dial alone. As far as what I see on the dial versus the price, I'm quite impressed again, because just to have a look at all the small features which I've pointed out, the little details, which makes exceptional dial work. And even the date window at the 6, beveled. So yeah, pretty clean dial. Definitely has a fair bit of character to it, quite a distinct look too. in hand is definitely better than what you see online, and the pictures, they don't really do it enough justice. Now the loom on the Borman is quite surprising actually. It's very decent. Now especially considering how thin those hour markers are and how thin those hands are. The slithers of loom applied, you've got C3 and BGW9 on the hands. Yeah, fairly bright for a sport watch. I mean, not super bright, not punchy enough, but it's definitely better than the Cadisen one that we looked at. Now, by no means is this watch a one-trick pony, so it's not just about the dial work. When we take a look at the case and the rest of the watch, the level of finishing and attention to detail, again, has surprised me, because to me, this is fairly unknown. There's not that many people reviewing these watches. There's not a lot of hype around them. So if we just take a look first thing at that polished bezel, yeah, mirror polished to perfection, quite slim in profile. It isn't that steep in the slope, so it does spread out quite a bit, giving you just a, let's say, wide enough bezel just to make that whole dial versus case quite proportionate. Now, moving on to the lugs, this is where you start seeing all those fine points of detailing. Look how slim those lugs are. Now, the lugs have been defined by two ways here. So on the inside of those lugs, let me just focus on one point right there where the end link sits. You can see that's been polished on both sides. And then you've got that satin brushing down the center of that lug. Along the sides, you've got those polished bevels and then horizontal satin brushing on the sides. So this is what gives you that awesome definition on the lugs. And the finishing level, again, you know, look at the price point, £110 or whatever. It is amazing to see that we're seeing so many watches with just crazy finishing. And I don't know how people can still hate on AliExpress. Because they are so far ahead of a lot of the mainstream, if not a majority of the mainstream watches that are out there. They are far above in so many levels, in finishing, in design, you know, fit and function, feel, everything. They are quite ahead there. End links, very good fit. Female end links as well. No awkward gaps, no uneven gaps. The brushing, super satin fine. That nice edge there, that polished lip there that you get on the edge. Yeah, totally surprised me. You know, again, with pictures, when you don't see a watch in hand, it's difficult to see or kind of gauge what it's going to be like unless you get it in hand. And I can say definitely a pleasant surprise. Moving over to the case back, you'll see the exhibition case back with your specifications, etc. And yeah, that Miyota 8215 movement. Now let's move on to the bracelet, a standard 3-link bracelet. Very soft brushing down the side links, and then you've got the polishing in the center links, and that's what happens with the polished links. You can just see the fingerprints. But I've managed to not scratch it up as much as I usually do when I review these polished watches. Then you've got split pins that hold the links together. Split pins obviously will make it a bit more flexible. It's not as premium as screw-in links, but I definitely choose split pins over those pin and collar, which are a bit sturdier, but the pain that you have to go through a pin and collar is just not worth it. Moving on to the clasp, it's a milled clasp, brushed in the center, polished on the sides, and with a total of 5 micro adjustments. Very adequate for the clasp. The bonus there is that it's also very proportionate to the watch. I dislike extra large clasps that throw off the watch's proportions and balance, because on wrist, the watch fits fantastically well. It is a 41mm. We haven't seen any 41mm watches for a while. Just 11.5mm thick, lug to lug of 47, so still pretty compact with those female end links as well. The bracelet does taper down to 16mm from 20, so it has a lot of great presence on wrist. The polishing combined with the brushed or the satin brushed aspects of it gives you immense light play all over the watch. Also with the dial now, the way the light reflects off those different surfaces. So this was definitely a pleasant surprise on one of the watches that I picked up a few weeks back. I just remembered while I'm doing this, because I haven't scripted these reviews, so you know, just time saving and whatnot, I didn't speak about the clasp on the Cadisen. So quite an important thing here, 3 micro adjustments, quite short. I would have preferred a clasp that we've got like this size, the Borman clasp on the Cadisen. They keep using this small clasp. 3 micro adjustments is plenty, right? It's make or break between 2 and 3, and 3 just gives you that tiny bit that you need for a fit. But yeah, this is the opposite of proportionate. Like, look how small that clasp is compared to the rest of the watch, because the watch is pretty robust here. So that makes 2 points of problems on the Cadisen, which I think that loom, and then obviously the smaller clasp. But the rest of the watch is a-okay. very well made. I think it is, you know, one of the nicer ones. So that is it from me today. Thank you guys for watching. Apologies for the choppy review. Just trying to change it up and work to quite a tight schedule. So as always, appreciate you guys watching. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, and I will see you on the next video.